In a small town called Apaba, there was a single government hospital, the only hospital in the town. Clean on the outside, but hiding something dark behind its white walls. Most people called it Hope Maternity Center, a place where many mothers had come to hold joy in their hands. But not everyone left with peace in their hearts. They said Nurse Ebele was one of the best hands in that hospital. Skilled, calm, always available on night shifts. Her uniform was always neat, her voice soft like someone who truly cared. Patients called her Auntie Nurse, but behind that warm smile was something most people couldn't see, at least not immediately. It all began with a whisper. One woman, after losing her newborn baby, said she saw something strange in her dream. Now her baby was gone too soon. Nurse Ebele had carried the baby into the side room for quick cleaning. That was normal procedure, but the babies never last after giving them back to their mothers. But then it happened again and again and again. Always the same pattern. Babies were declared gone before the mother could even hear their first cry properly. And strangely, it always happened during Nurse Ebele's shift. Some people began to talk. Some nurses noticed too. But nobody wants to accuse a senior staff member. The fear of getting transferred, or worse, losing their job, kept most mouths sealed. One day, a cleaner, young girl named Mira, was mopping the corridor beside the delivery ward late in the evening. It was raining that night and thunder echoed like God himself was angry. Mira said she heard a soft whimper, not a cry, but like a stifled sound. Curious, she walked slowly towards the storage room where Nurse Ebele always took the babies for cleaning. What she saw when she peeked through the slightly open door was strange, but that was revealed at the end of her evil, because what the evil nurse was doing inside that room under dim yellow light was not just shocking, it was unforgettable. That rainy night, it was like the heavens cried louder than the mothers in the world. The storm was heavy, as though nature itself was mourning something yet to be revealed. Young Mira, the cleaner, was not the kind to poke nose into matters that didn't concern her. But that night, something pulled her close to that door. The sound was too soft, yet too disturbing. It wasn't quite a baby's cry. It wasn't quite silence either. It was something in between, like muffled life trying to make its presence known. The storage room door was slightly open. Mira pushed it just a little more. Her hands trembled, and there she saw it. Nurse Ebele was bent over a newborn, tiny, weak, still fresh from the womb. But instead of placing the baby on a warm towel or cleaning him gently, she was rubbing something black on the child's chest, a dark substance like ash or charcoal mixed with some red liquid in a small calabash bowl beside her. Her lips were moving, chanting something in low tones like a prayer, but not the kind she knows. She rubbed the black mixture slowly, not with care, but with precision, as if she had done it many times before. There, she reached for a sharp, small pin. One Mira recognized as not part of any hospital tool. She pricked the child's heel, wiped the small drop into the calabash, and whispered again. The baby's breathing stopped. Mira panicked and backed away before she could scream. She left silently. That night, she didn't sleep. She locked her room and cried. But the next day, the hospital announced again, another baby is gone. Mira tried to speak. She told one of the junior nurses, but instead of concern, the nurse looked at her and said something that made Mira's body go cold. She said, "You better keep quiet. You think you are the first to see it?" And that was the moment Mira knew this wasn't just about one evil nurse. There were others who knew, maybe even others involved. So now, Mira was faced with a choice: speak and risk her life, or stay silent and carry this guilt forever. But when evil goes unchecked, it grows bolder. And in the following days, another woman came in. Healthy pregnancy, normal labor, but this time her husband insisted on being present. And what happened that night is unbelievable. It was Friday night, and the wind carried a strange heaviness. Adora, a strong woman in her third pregnancy, was brought into the hospital by her husband Kenneth. They were excited, hopeful, but Kenneth had heard things, whispers, warnings from people who had no reason to lie. When they told him Nurse Ibele would be handling the delivery, Kenneth didn't say much, but deep inside he made a quiet vow. "This time I will not look away." The labor went well. Adora pushed, screamed, fought, and finally a baby boy was born. The cry was strong. The nurse smiled. "Congratulations," she said calmly, wrapping the baby quickly. But as she turned towards the side room, where she always went to clean the child, Kenneth stood up. "I will go with you," he said firmly. Nurse Ebele froze. "Sorry?" she asked, not smiling this time. "I said I'll follow you. I just want to see him bathe. No offense, ma. I'm only being careful." The silence was heavy. The tension was louder than the baby's cry. Then Ebele snapped, not with shouting, but with a bitter, almost mocking smile. "Sir, are you here to teach me how to do my job? Have been doing this before you learned how to hold a feeding bottle. Do you follow your mechanic into his workshop too? Or do you only doubt women when they are working?" Kenneth didn't budge. "Let me carry the baby myself then. I'll take him dirty if I must." At that point, other nurses began to turn their heads. Ibele's tone hardened. "You either trust us or you take your baby like this. Dirty, just take him. Because if you are going to act like I'm a criminal, then don't hand your child over to me." It was then that a young doctor, Dr. Sam, who had just walked in to check vitals, overheard the arguments. "What's going on here?" he asked. Kenneth explained calmly, yet firmly. Ebele spoke too, but her voice was tight, like someone who wasn't used to being challenged. And then the doctor, without blinking, said something that caught everyone off guard. He turns to another nurse on duty and said, "Joy, bathe the baby. Let's not turn a moment of joy into unnecessary drama." There was an awkward silence. Nurse Joy stepped forward, and Ebele, clearly furious, dropped the baby into her hands and walked away. She wasn't just angry, she was threatened. Mira, who had been watching from a distance, knew, but nobody knew yet was but what nobody knew yet was this: that one small act of resistance had started something bigger. That night, after the long tension-filled delivery, Kenneth, Adora, and their newborn son finally fell asleep. The baby lay quietly between them, wrapped in white. Kenneth slept with one arm resting on his child, as if to protect him even in his dreams. The hospital was quiet, unusually so. The night shift had changed. The hallway lights flickered. Somewhere, a ceiling fan creaked softly. Then, as the clock struck 2:17 a.m., the door to Ward 4B opened slowly without a sound. No footstep, no knock, no nurse calls, just a gentle creak, and a shadow slipped in like mist. It was Nurse Ebele. She wore a different uniform, not her usual white. This one was dark blue, loose fitting, and in her hand she held something small and brown, a cloth pouch. Kenneth didn't stir, neither did Adora. It was as if the air itself had lured them into a deeper sleep. The baby moved slightly but made no sound. Ibele stepped closer, lips moving but no voice came out. She was chanting but in silence. Her fingers made slow signs in the air over the baby's head. Then she placed the pouch briefly on the child's chest, whispered again. The child's eyelid fluttered. She took the pouch, turned, and walked out, shutting the door like a ghost had come and gone. By morning, it happened. Adora woke first. Her hands reached for her baby. He wasn't moving. She sat up properly and carried him, tapped him, still no sign of life. Her first scream was soft. The second shook the building. Kenneth jumped up. The baby was gone. The hospital was filled with chaos and confusion, a challenge too loud to ignore. They searched. Nothing. CCTV, the footage for what word is missing. CCTV, the footage for that word is missing. Word spread fast. Other mothers began shaking their cribs. All the other babies were intact. Mira stood in the hallway, frozen. Her hands covered her mouth. She had warned them, but now it was worse than she thought. The hospital board held an emergency meeting. The town broke into chaos. Crowds gathered outside with banners. Where are our babies? Where are our babies? Where are our babies? They shouted. Behind all the noise, Mira knew this wasn't just about hospital negligence. This wasn't one nurse going wrong. This was deeper. This was an operation, and she was the only one with enough pieces to expose it. The hospital was no longer a place of healing. It had become a crime scene. Mothers wailed, fathers protested. The streams were filled with anger, and Hope Maternity Center, once trusted, was now a haunted building wrapped in shame. But amidst the chaos, one person stayed calm, Mira. She had seen enough. She had watched for too long. And now she was ready to do what no one else had dared, expose Nurse Ebili. She met privately with Dr. Sam, the only doctor who had once intervened. She told him everything. What she saw the night Ebele rubbed black substance on a baby. Dr. Sam was shocked but not surprised. He had his own quiet suspicions. Together they formed a plan. One day, another pregnant woman, Mrs. Ijoma, was due to give birth within days. She volunteered, brave and grieving. Her own sister had lost a baby just 2 months ago under this same hospital. The hospital board, still trying to protect its name, reluctantly agreed to the uncover operation. On a Tuesday night, just after midnight, Mrs. Ijoma went into labor. Ebele, who had resurfaced silently, was back on duty. She returned confidently, walking the corridors like nothing had happened. But this time, they were watching her. The baby was born. Ebele, as usual, offered to take him in for quick cleaning. She entered the side room, a sacred place. She placed the baby on the metal tray, opened her pouch, and began the chant. She rubbed a thick dark paste on the baby's chest. She brought out a red string, tied it around the baby's wrist. Then she began whispering names, names of people, names of those who paid for cleansing rituals. Yes, that was the secret. She was exchanging newborn destinies to ritualists, occultists, and spiritual handlers who believed newborn essence could generate good results or bring spiritual power. A deeply disturbing underground market, one Ebele had been feeding for years. She sold the baby's destinies and life herself. That night, as Ebele began to finish her ritual, the door burst open. Police, Dr. Sam, Mira, She didn't fight, she just froze. They arrested her on the spot. In her pouch, they found evil things, strange powders, and names written on paper, names that linked her to a cult syndicate operating across. The hospital board was dissolved. Other nurses who had stayed silent were suspended. Kenneth and Adora's baby gone forever. As for Mira, she became a symbol, the quiet cleaner who shows to speak, who shows to fight, who shows truth. She later told her story to schools, to churches, to mothers everywhere. Evil doesn't always scream. Sometimes it wears a friendly smile. But when you speak, even the darkest secrets begin to lose power.